This week, HPT crowns a new champion at River City Casino and Hotel. Fans and players alike have gathered at the final table here in St. Louis to see which of the remaining players will walk away with the victory. The final 5 players all have their eyes set on the top prize of over $142,000 and the elusive HPT main event title. Only one of them can walk away winner, so it's sure to be an intense finale full of action.
This is the HPT.
Sit right down, put on your poker face, you with the big dogs now. Better bring your best game, talk trash all you want. To me it's all the same, you won't leave with much when you come in second place. I'm the one with the stack showing 7 to the jack. Gon' cry to your mama cause I'm sending you back. I'll be the last man standing with the money in my hand. I'll be the last man standing with the money in my hand. Last man standing with the money in my hand. I'll be the last man standing with the money in my hand.
Hello friends, and welcome to the conclusion of the final table from the River City Casino and Hotel in St. Louis, Missouri. I'm Maria Ho, and once again, I'm joined by my friend and the veteran voice of the UFC Octagon, Mr. Bruce Buffer.
Thank you, Maria. Thanks for having me on again. I feel great, and I'm real excited to be here again with you to call the action at this final table of the HPT here in St. Louis.
Yeah, a lot of people might not know this, but Bruce is quite the accomplished poker player.
Well, I like to think so, and I love the action at the table. My competitive spirit, my warrior spirit comes out, and I love winning money. So it works for me.
Well, Bruce, we're glad to have you here. Now let's get our audience up to date. Hundreds of players started out to the 5 remaining players now that are looking to battle it out for the HPT title. Each of them has already survived 2 full days of grinding it out against a field of talented poker players to get here. Now it's time to dig deep and play their best game.
They're in it for the long haul, and I'd imagine that whoever can hold that concentration the longest has the best chance of making it to the end.
Well, Bruce, let's see if any of these players have your warrior spirit. Now, would you like to do us the honors and take us into the action?
Absolutely. HPT fans, it's time for the main event. Now, let's go to the tables, check out the money on the line, the chip counts, and the action that's about to take place.
The 5 players remaining are all looking to take down that top spot. $142,000 and change goes to our winner today, but 5th place doesn't pay out too badly either. $29,635 for the next person eliminated. Ari Engel is our chip leader, 5-handed with just over $6 million. Paul Falig follows behind him with $2.3 million. Both Jacob and Jose have over $1 million in chips. Joseph Sanfilippo, who started this final table as our chip leader, is now the shortest stack with 14 big blinds.
So we're back with 5 players, each one striving for the championship. We're still at 25,000, 50,000 blinds with the 5,000 ante.
And action started on Joseph and he folds. Paul quickly folds, and now it's on to Jacob on the button.
Jacob betting 100,000 with an ace-3 suited. Ari folds over to Jose, who calls 50,000 to meet the 100,000 bet with Jack-4 suited spades.
Now I think Jose's opening his game up a little bit, got a little pep in his step and a little boost to his stack. And the flop is 7-5-6, 2 spades.
Great flop for Jose, giving him an open-ended straight and a flush draw. Jose checks, Jacob checks. Here comes an ace on the turn, giving Jacob strength. Still a lot of power in Jose's hand. Jose checks.
I see that Jacob's gonna bet, and now it's just about whether or not Jose wants to take this spot to semi-bluff with his strong draw or to just call.
Kind of hard to walk away from that, Maria, with 13 outs, I think.
Absolutely. He's got a ton of outs for his hand, and his check raise here represents the fact that he really feels good about his draw. And I mean, Jacob's really got to be thinking about this here because Jacob knows Jose's not the kind of person to mess around, and because of Jose's image, he could do this. He could check raise on a semi-bluff and take it down.
When you watch Jose and how tight he's been playing this game, and for him the way he played that hand, so he's going to start switching up now too, because with 5 people at the table, you've got to apply aggression.
Absolutely. And I like that Jose is seizing this opportunity to do so.
Action this hand with Jacob, folds an 8-3 suited, over to Ari. 7-10 suited, always a fun hand to play.
And knowing Ari, he's not going to take too many hands off, he decides to raise here.
Jose starting to get cards, pulls back a pair of 10s. How's he going to react to Ari's bet?
And 10s is just too strong 5-handed, I think, to just call. I think he has to be 3-betting here.
265.
which he does, raising it up to 265,000 chips. It's 160,000 for Ari to call. He's got a huge stack. What does he do?
It looks like Ari might be putting out a 4-bet here. I think he wants to test Jose now.
Interesting that he raised it to 1.35 million, considering up until recently how tight Jose's been playing this table.
Yeah, I don't know if I love this timing for Ari. Like you said, Jose has been playing very tight, and I think Ari just decides that Jose might be the person he could push around here. But with Jose holding a pair of 10s, I certainly don't think, and I don't hope that he's going to 3-bet fold this. That would seem kind of crazy given 5-handed and how aggressive Ari's been.
I don't think he can get away from this hand. I think, yeah, there's the move. All in.
And you know, Ari can't 4-bet fold to just 170,000 more. So Ari's got his hand caught in the cookie jar a little bit here, and he knows it. And what's worse is he doesn't even have a 10 as an out. So now he's just looking for straight possibilities, flush possibilities, trip 7s.
His mind's saying spade, spade, spade. Well, there's 3,350,000 chips in the pot. This is a large pot. It'll put Jose in contention if he wins.
And the flop is 6 king ace, 2 hearts. No help at all for Ari. This is looking really good for Jose now to double through him and take down a huge pot.
Turn comes a 3 of diamonds.
And now Ari is officially drawing dead against Jose's 10s. Jose is going to double up, and he is going to have a nice size stack after this hand.
You know, this points out another fact, too, that aggression is important in poker, but also that's very important is patience. And one thing Jose has shown here is extreme patience, because now he's starting to turn himself up.
Absolutely.
The winner will win over $142,000 at the HPT final table. That's almost 3 times the average of what a family would earn in America today. Let's see who's going to take the next 3 years off as we get back.
And welcome back to the HPT, coming to you from St. Louis, Missouri and the River City Casino. 5 players remain at our televised final table. Let's go inside and pick up the action.
Ari Engel is still our chip leader, but after a couple of missteps, his gap isn't as wide as it was before. Jose is now nipping at his heels with 3.3 million. Our short stack, Joseph Sanfilippo, getting ever closer to that hand where he's going to be all in.
25, 50,000 blinds, 5,000 ante. We'll get back to the action now on the table with our 5 remaining players.
Button is on Paul this hand, so action's going to start on Jose. And whereas before he was folding these aces from early position, now with some chips and shorthanded, he's ready to come in with a raise.
Jose, with an ace-6 off, applies his aggression again with a bet of 115,000. Joseph peeling back at 10-jack suited.
I'm all in.
All in.
And he pushes all in. Wise push, of course.
I think Joseph decides that with 9 big blinds, although he doesn't have any fold equity to Jose's raise, it's a good enough hand, it's a pretty hand, he's going to take a shot with it, hope to get lucky, hope to double up here. And certainly Jose's just going to make the call. It's only 305,000 more with a shot of eliminating Joseph.
Joseph, huge chip leader earlier, lost a large amount of chips in one big pot, now fighting for his life with his 10-jack suited. Let's see the flop.
And the flop is Queen 8-6, 2 diamonds. And you know, Joseph has some possibilities. He hasn't really connected with this flop. A 9 or a 7 will give him the straight.
Yeah, just a sweater.
5 of diamonds, 3 diamonds on the board, ace of diamonds in Jose's hand.
So that's actually going to take away some of Joseph's out. Now, can't hit any of his outs that are a diamond.
9-10 jack.
4 of spades on the river. No luck for Joseph. Joseph out in 5th place.
And you know, it happens a lot in poker. You come into the final table as the chip leader, and nothing just goes your way. And Joseph has definitely made a few suspect plays, and now he's in this spot where he went from the penthouse to the outhouse. But he will take home just under 30,000 for his efforts today.
My dad always told me when I was playing poker, Maria, said, win like you're used to it and lose like it doesn't bother you. But I'll tell you right now, that next 10 minutes for Joseph is going to be pain.
It's going to bother him. So now 4-handed, getting really close to our next HPT champion.
Pair of 8s, Jacob peels back, throws out a bet of 100,000. Ari folds. Jose peeling back a pair of trays, or what we know as threes.
And I hope Jose doesn't get too ahead of himself. I know he's on a good run, but I'm glad he's just calling. I probably would not 3-bet with threes, but calling a raise, I think, four-handed is plenty fine.
No matter what, with a pair of threes into the flop, you're waiting for that 3 to hit. Flop comes Jack, King, 4, 2 hearts. 8s are strong.
Jose checks it over to Jacob, and Jacob also checks. He decides that that's not a great board for his hand, and he doesn't really need to be betting at this point. He's going to wait and see another card.
Turn with a Jack of diamonds, pairing the board. Both players with 2 pair. Jacob still in the lead.
And once again, the pot goes check, check.
River, oh my lord. Jose's luck continues. The poker gods throw him trips on the river with 3 threes.
And Jose caught up huge on this river, and it looks like he's going to bet. And I think Jacob might be forced to call him because Jacob checked the flop and the turn, hoping for a decent run out, which, you know, it is. And now Jacob's probably just going to have to call here.
Jose makes a good bet, not over betting just the right amount to try to get a value play.
And Jacob's just got to think, is Jose capable of bluffing in this spot? Is he capable of checking twice and then betting the river into me as a bluff? And that's kind of what he's thinking about. But, you know, the way the hand's been played, Jacob has really no choice but to make this call. And he's going to see that he kind of let Jose get there.
Tough beat, but at the same time, this is an example of what table image can do for somebody at the table. I think that really played a hand in here for him to get that 220,000 chip call on the river.
Yeah, definitely. And I think that Jacob had no choice but to call there, and it just didn't work out that time. We're a few eliminations away from crowning our next HPT champion. Who's it going to be? Find out next.
Welcome back. We're down to 4 players. But where I come from, 2's a date, 3's a party, 4's a war. Let's see who's going to make this into a big party.
Ari Engel is still the chip leader with just over 6 million, and people are just going to have to wrestle the top spot away from Ari. He's not giving it away easily by any means, but Jose, Paul, and Jacob, you know, they all are in contention here. They all have a chance to win this HPT event.
And we're back to the table. Blinds 30, 60,000, 10,000 Annie. Let's go.
Jose is under the gun here, and it looks like he's going to come in for a raise with Queen 10 of spades.
Always a nice pre-flop hand.
Jacob with King 4 offsuit from the small blind. I don't think he's thinking about calling. I think he's thinking about 3-betting or folding. It's not really the hand you want to peel with out of position.
Ari with a King 5 suited.
I think Ari is going to defend his big blind here. I think Ari feels pretty comfortable in his post-flop game to know when to get away from a hand and when to continue with a hand. So I don't really mind this defend at all.
Flop comes King 9 ace, 2 clubs on the board. Ari benefiting very strong with a pair of kings and also a nut flush draw.
And that's definitely not the kind of board that Ari is planning on getting away from his hand.
Jose bets out 145,000 on the basis of just a gut straight.
And I think this is where Ari is probably just going to call. There's not that many cards he's afraid of. He has middle pair and the nut flush draw.
Ari makes the call for 145,000 chips.
And it'll be interesting to see if Jose doesn't hit his gut shot, if he's willing to try to make another bet on the turn.
8 of diamonds on the turn. No help to anybody. Both check.
Jose decides he doesn't have 2 barrels in him for this hand. And now Ari has to feel pretty comfortable that even his kings are good here. So he's pretty much looking for a blank on the river.
6 of spades on the river. Ari's questioning if there's an ace in Jose's hand. Might feel very strong with the king. Let's see if he bets.
Now Ari just has to decide if he's going for value or if he's going to try to get Jose to bet again on the river.
What do you think's going through Jose's mind? He makes a bet. He can push him off his hand. It's a little aggression here, or just let's see what happens. You might just want to see it.
Yeah, he is, and I'm pretty sure Jose knows that he can't show down queen high and be good. But he decides he needs to give up on this pot, and probably good because Ari was going to call a river bet.
Maria, do you ever show your cards when you're playing?
It depends on what kind of image I'm going for. I think a lot of the times I want people to think that I'm really tight and that I don't bluff, so I'm always showing when I have it, obviously.
And I'm kind of the opposite because I like people to think I'm a little bit tight, which I change my levels of aggression, but when I make a good bluff, I like to show it.
You're just slamming it down on the felt.
Exactly. I like to get people a little irritated at the table. King Jack offsuit to Paul.
And he is going to raise, making it 125,000 to go. Jacob looking a little flustered. He's not picking up much.
And an ace-queen suited spades for Ari. Definitely a strong hand, especially at a four-man table.
And Ari is going to re-raise to 290,000. And this is kind of where Paul's probably going to call and peel this hand against Ari. Ari's shown himself to be extremely aggressive pre-flop. People have seen him 3-bet with hands a lot worse than ace-queen suited. So I think Paul's not really going to go anywhere.
He's getting great odds for this call. Yeah, we're looking at a 680,000 chip pot going into the flop. Flop comes 6-6-3, 2 diamonds on the board. No help to either player's hand. Ari's still staying strong with his ace-queen suited.
Yeah, I think Ari's just going to follow it up with a C-bet here and hope to take it down. He's not too afraid of anything, but he doesn't also want to give Paul a free card. Paul's probably wondering if his king high might be good or if he wants to make a play for this pot.
He's getting over 4-1 on his money, so it's definitely something to consider with the 2 overcards, and he makes the call.
And the turn brings the 4 of hearts. Ari's hand is still in the lead.
I don't think you can slow down aggression at this point, but he does.
Ari decides to check it over to Paul, but I feel like if Paul tries to bet this turn, I think he's going to get a call from Ari. I think Ari just didn't want to bet and get raised.
Since Ari checked, I was considering bet hard to represent a 6 in my hand.
Yeah, I definitely think Paul is going to have to bet on the bigger side if there's any chance of getting Ari to fold ace high. But, you know, 250,000, I don't think it's going to do it. I think there was a flush draw on the flop that didn't come in. And, you know, Ari probably thinks that his ace high could still be good.
He's priced Ari in for the call here. He should have bet more. But what do I know?
Well, you knew that Ari was going to call, and he does. And I think there's a lot of really good rivers that Paul can follow up with another barrel that might get Ari to fold his ace high. We'll have to see. The 3's not one of them, though, because now the board's double paired, and the flush did not come in. And if Ari thought his ace high was good on the turn, then he's going to think his ace high is still good on this river.
Nice hand for Ari. Nice hand with no hand, shall we say. And let's take another break from the River City Casino Hotel in St. Louis, Missouri.
And welcome back to the HPT here from St. Louis, Missouri and the River City Casino. The HPT Championship and just over 142,000 up for grabs. It's anybody's game. Let's send it back inside.
Four-handed now. The chip counts are kind of the story of the haves and have-nots. Ari Engel and Jose Montez both have really great chip stacks. 6.5 million to just under 4 million, but Paul and Jacob with just around 1 million have 18 and 17 big blinds respectively.
We're back with 60,000 blinds, 10,000 ante. 4 people vying for the championship on the HPT Tour.
Paul's first act and he folds. Jacob with his king deuce offsuit, still looking a little bit frustrated that just the cards are not coming his way right now.
Ari with an ace 4 offsuit. Puts out 130,000 in chips. 6-7 off for Jose.
And Jose decides it's good enough to defend a blind versus blind situation. He's definitely opened up his game a lot since we got him short-handed. It's good to see.
I like the way he's changed his pace here. Flop comes 4-6 jack, 2 diamonds on the board, pair of 4s for Ari, pair of 6s for Jose. Ari continues, 110,000 bet.
And you know, in a blind versus blind situation and you have a random hand raising into you from the small blind and you flop middle pair, you're probably going to go with it unless the board runs out really badly.
And rightfully so, you're correct, Maria. He calls 110,000. Four hits the board. Strong card for Ari.
And now Ari has turned trip fours, snatching the lead in the hand away from Jose, and he decides to check it over.
Very smart check. Jose could dig a hole for himself right here, but he doesn't. He checks it. River comes, queen of clubs. No help to anyone. Trip four is strong for Ari. Time to put the chips out on the table.
And if I were Ari, I'd make a tiny bet. That's not the kind of board that Jose's just going to call with anything here, so you don't want to bet too big, and he only makes it 180,000, which I think is a good size for Jose to just kind of throw the chips in and shake his head.
I agree. But does he agree?
Poker players are by nature very curious, but I feel like Jose looks like he's going to fold. I was like, wow, that's a great laydown, but nope, he puts the chip back on his cards and I'd be surprised if he folds for 180,000.
No surprise there. Just total disappointment for Jose.
You know, when somebody air mucks, it's like, get these cards out of my hands.
I don't mind when they air muff, except when they throw it at the dealer. I usually get a little upset and have to talk to the player about his courtesy towards the dealer.
Well, listen, if you had to talk with me at the table, Bruce, I'd be scared. I would not be doing anything that makes you angry.
Don't worry, Maria. My lifetime goal with you is just to keep a smile on your face.
Aww.
But not to give you any of my chips, of course.
Well, just hope you're not at my table then.
Can't wait. King 9 suited for Jose. Raised it up to 130,000. Ace Queen suited for Jacob. About time.
Yeah, that's definitely the kind of hand Jacob has been waiting for. He's got 17 big blinds, four-handed. Ace Queen suited is huge.
And he pushes all in, and rightfully so. 750,000 to call to Jose. 1.1 million plus in the pot.
And I don't know if this is a good call for Jose to make. I think 17 big blind shove over your open, it's still a lot of chips.
I think Jose needs to fold this hand and go on to the next hand. He's got to get away from this. It's a big bet, considering the price of the pot.
Yeah, I mean, King 9 suited looks pretty, but when somebody shoves over the top of you and is risking their tournament life, you got to think twice, but no.
Well, we've got it going here.
Yeah, I mean, and if you look at the percentages, Jose's not in that bad a shape. It's a 60-40 essentially, but Jacob is still ahead.
He's a calm cat going into the flop. Let's see what happens. Flop comes King, 6, Jack, 2 clubs. Jose pairs his kings, plus a flush draw. Jacob with Ace Queen suited looking at a gut straight draw. Not exactly the best position to be in.
No, it's a really, really bad flop for Jacob, and I think his hopes and dreams to double up died a little bit on that flop.
7 of spades on the turn. No help to anyone.
So now Jacob needs an ace or a 10 that's not a club in order to survive this. Otherwise, he will be eliminated in 4th place.
And an 8 of hearts hits the river. No help to Jacob. Out at 4th place.
No doubt this is disappointing for poker pro Jacob Baisley, but $39,917, not a bad payday. I'm sure we'll see him back here soon. Bruce, you know, there could be a lot of variance in poker, and sometimes you might need a little help from your friends. So it's not uncommon at all that people will pool their money together and kind of take the hits or the successes together. And Doyle is going to tell us about the time that he paired up with Sailor and Slim to do just that in a poker life with Doyle Brunson, brought to you by Ace Play Poker.
Doyle knows how to do it. Let's watch and see how it's done.
Sailor always went broke. He always was so generous that he would give his money away, especially to the women. And I think Slim was had a large family, had a big expense, and I had a little more stability, I guess. You know, I didn't chase around and throw my money away, and so I usually had money when they didn't, and consequently, I did start taking bigger pieces of different endeavors that we did because I had to furnish the money.
With that elimination, it's time to take another quick commercial break, but when we come back, more final table action. You're watching the HPT. All right, with that elimination, we are down to 3 players now. We'll find out who that new champion is going to be. They'll go home with just over $142,000 in ice-cold hard cash. You're watching the HPT.
3 players left. Ari Engel is our chip leader with 7.1 million. Jose Montez has 4.3 million, and our short stack is Paul Feelig with 17 big blinds.
And with 2 people out since last break, we're down to the final 3 players at the championship table. And let's check out the action. Blinds at 30, 60,000 with a 10,000 ante.
Button is on Jose in seat 2. 3-handed, he's first to act. Looks down at ace-9 offsuit, definitely coming in for a raise.
Probably pretty confident in ace-9 since that was the hand that won him all those chips previously.
Seems like Ari might be as confident in Jack Deuce as Jose is in ace-9. He does call with the suited Jack Deuce.
Flop comes queen, ace, 8. 2 hearts on the board. Jose scoring an ace for his hand. Not much help to Ari.
And Ari checks it over to Jose, and I think a C-bet here by Jose is just going to end this hand for Ari. I don't feel like there's much of a reason for Ari to go after this pot. He does have some backdoor draws, but I think, you know, you still want to be feeling out your opponents. You're getting to the point where you're trying to get heads up to win, and you don't really need to get so out of line. I know Ari likes to make his presence known at a table, but I think it's okay to fold sometimes.
I'm very surprised if he calls this bet. Let's see if he raises it.
One thing I know about Ari is when he doesn't have a whole lot of equity, he's probably just going to raise and hope he could take it down.
And he raises it up to 365,000, a bold move.
And it just comes down to him not believing that Jose does have an ace here. And, you know, 3-handed, people are going to be raising on the button with so many more hands than just hands that contain an ace. So I don't really fault Ari for trying to make a play for this pot. It's just unfortunate for him that Jose actually does have what he's representing.
3-man table, I think that's a smart call on Jose's part.
I don't know how much Jose could withstand or how much heat Ari's willing to put on him, but we'll have to see how the run out goes.
Seven of diamonds on the turn. A new world for Ari now with a flush draw.
Yeah, that's definitely one of the backdoor draws that Ari was looking for. He's turned a lot more equity with his hand now, and now he's more on a semi-bluff than just a complete bluff. Equity is basically when your hand has some sort of value. So on the flop, when Ari did check raise with just jack high, he didn't really have equity with the flop, but he had backdoor equity, and now with the turn being a diamond and giving him a flush draw, that means there's several outs that Ari could hit to win this pot.
Jose makes the call. It all comes down to the river.
Jose decides that his ace high is still good enough to call another bet on the turn. The river might change things though, get a little bit scarier.
King of spades on the river, no help to anybody, especially Ari. Let's see if the aggression continues.
It's definitely not the river card Ari was hoping for, and now he decides that he has to give up on this pot.
That check would make me very confident to make a bet if I was in Jose's position.
Yeah, and I think Jose is thinking if he does want to make a value bet, or if he just wants to show this hand down now, he feels like he might have taken enough heat.
He checks. Jose takes down the hand, a nice beefy pot of 2,050,000 chips. We continue with 30, 60,000 blinds, 10,000 on the ante. Ari the first one to act on the button, and he pulls back pocket jacks.
And for the man who usually raises without much in his hand, he's got a huge one here, and he is probably going to get some action. I feel like now people are starting to see just how aggressive Ari is playing. Got Paul thinking about it here from the big blind.
Paul calls, protects his big blind.
With Queen Jack offsuit, though, Paul is dominated by Ari's jacks.
Flop comes 6, 8, 9, 2 spades. Gut shot draw for Paul against the jacks of Ari. 110,000 chips put out by Ari. I find this kind of interesting, Maria, how he'll bet pre-flop 130 and post-flop 110. Why the lower amount? What is the strategic move or reason for that in your mind?
I think that a lot of players do this because they want to maybe pot control a little bit more. I think Daniel Negreanu really preached small ball poker a lot, and I think that's kind of what this is. And the board texture is not great for jacks. I don't think Ari wants to bet huge, and then if he gets raised, that's just more money he's going to have to put in the pot. So I think that he's just taking the strategy of, you know, betting an amount that he'll get called if he's ahead, and if he might possibly be behind, or if somebody has a big draw, then he doesn't have to pay a lot to see the next card.
Makes total sense. 5 of clubs on the turn.
Check, check. Ooh. And the 10 of spades comes in big for Paul now.
Wow. Wow, what a gift from God.
Yep, and Paul is surely going to bet at this, and it's just about if Ari can get away from this hand. I mean, the flush draw from the flop did come in, so Ari's good enough to get away from this hand. He knows that's one of the worst cards in the deck.
I say he folds.
I like where your head's at, Bruce. I just hope Ari could hear you.
Can't we just check?
His facial expression states that he might.
Literally one of the worst cards in the deck on the river. Ari knows that, but sometimes you can't help yourself. You're like, overpair to the board.
If I were happen to fold, would you shove?
He's not even getting 3 to 1, so I don't think it's a good call.
Hypothetically.
I don't know. I've never shown. So it probably won't start now.
I don't know. Paul seems really comfortable. I like that Ari's kind of talking to him. There's definitely something to be said for, you know, getting a live read off of someone. I'm not a big believer in a poker face necessarily, but I mean, yeah, that's a good fold by Ari, and I think, you know, he kind of talked and felt out Paul's confidence there.
Well, Paul takes in a nice pot with that Dream River card.
We're a few eliminations away from crowning our next HPT champion. Who's it gonna be? Find out next.
Welcome back to the HPT Final Table. I'm Bruce Buffer with my co-host Maria Ho. I have the pleasure of filling in for your host Fred Bevel. So now, let's get back to the hot action at the HPT Final Table.
And for the first time in a long time, we have a new chip leader, Jose overtaking Ari with 5.8 million to Ari's 5.4 million. Paul Feelig, though, is still in the fight with just over 1.2 million.
Let's get back to the action. The blinds are at 40, 80,000, 10,000 ante.
I've never seen such a big chip lead in a tournament.
Jose peels back, ace-6 suited. We know he likes that. He raises it up to 175,000.
And Paul looks down at deuces, and I think that with Paul's stack size of 17 big blinds, I like a shove here with deuces. I think it's the right thing to do, three-handed. You have plenty of fold equity. You are probably flipping and slightly ahead if you get called, so no reason not to just try to get the chips that are in the middle.
Now, Maria, put yourself in Jose's position. Do you make this call?
I personally wouldn't against the 17 big blind stack. I think I would against, a 12 to 14 big blind stack, and that makes all the difference sometimes. But Jose does make the call, and he's actually in pretty good shape against Paul's hand. But no, me myself, I personally probably would fold that hand.
Well, we have a 50-50 here, folks. Let's see what the flop brings us. Flop comes 5-8 queen, 2 diamonds on the board. No help to anybody with Paul's pair of twos, staying strong.
Paul's still in the lead, but
Whoa!
that puts him way in the lead. The deuce on the turn gives him a set. Now Jose is drawing dead to eliminate him.
Jose not even waiting for the river, already putting his chips out on the table, and he draws an ace on the river, but no help.
God.
For those of you that aren't aware of it, trip twos does beat a pair of aces.
Poker 101. Don't play poker without knowing that, guys.
And we continue play. Blinds 40, 80,000, 10,000 Annie.
That definitely breathed a whole lot of life into Paul's stack.
Ari peels back, 2 beautiful ladies. And Jose an enticing ace-10 offsuit.
3-handed ace-10 looks like a great hand. Little does he know Ari has queens here. And you know, by this point, people are really used to Ari raising with not a whole lot. So Jose decides he wants to 3-bet to 325,000 just based on the fact that Ari has been playing a lot of hands.
325.
This has the makings of a very big hand right now.
You know, this is where past history kind of dictates your play now, because last time Ari 4-bet Jose with 10-7 suited, and he knows Jose saw that hand get shown down. So I think that's why Ari is deciding to fast play this, because he's hoping that Jose is going to think that he's just 4-betting here with not a whole lot again.
1,190,000 in the pot. Jose has to consider 510,000 chips to call. And he makes the call.
You know, Jose's pretty undeterred by this 4-bet, and I think that's just because Ari has 4-bet him before with a pretty marginal hand.
Flop comes king, king, 3, rainbow. No help to Jose. More help to Ari.
Yeah, he's got to feel pretty comfortable about that flop. Unless Jose has a king in his hand, Ari feels pretty safe to just c-bet here and see what happens.
Ari reducing his bet from his previous bet, but puts out 400,000 chips.
400,000.
Jose looking for a read, but I don't really think a read is needed here when all he has to do is look at his cards.
Yeah, and you know what? I think Ari has just made Jose into a non-believer. And that's also why you have to give it up for Ari for the way that he's been playing, because you know, when you play the way that Ari's been playing, when you get a hand, you're going to get paid off. Because all of a sudden, people just don't think you ever have anything. And Jose's raising to $1 million when he could have just been calling if he thought his ace high was good.
I'm a little amazed he raised that up.
And Ari decides to call because he's thinking, you know, if Jose did have a king, would he be fast playing? Would he be playing it like this?
All right, Michelle, let's go ahead and see the turn card, please.
8 of spades hits the turn. Again, no help. Mind games going on here right now. Ari checks. I think Jose has to make a bet here considering what he just did, but he checks.
Yeah, I think if he doesn't follow through with it, there's just no chance he's going to get Ari to lay it down now. But it just depends on if he gets it on the river. But, you know, Ari just...
Whoa, holy jeez Louise.
It just adds to the belief that Ari has that he has the best hand now, obviously. And it's time for him to value bet. And maybe Jose is going to try to look him up with ace high. It's a huge pot. Ari bets 900,000. It's a 4.6 million chip pot.
Gotta admire Ari on his style when he's out with 3 ladies. Not out of the hand, mind you.
Right. I think Ari is just trying to get paid here. He's just going for just that tiny bit of value, and Jose might just give it to him. And he basically puts Ari on a stone bluff from the flop, just calling out of position. And, you know, I think it's not a great call here for Jose, but Ari just bet the right size on the river to get Jose to look him up there with ace high.
But as with most hands, if Ari was bluffing, we'd be praising Jose like crazy right now for his brilliant poker move.
True, it's easy for us. We get to see the hands, but, you know, I think that you can't fault people, like I said, for trying to win the pot. It just didn't happen to be a good time there for Jose. And now Ari is just going to have a massive chip lead three-handed.
Well, after that huge hand, we're still at 48,000 blinds with 10,000 ante. Ari peels back ace-7 off. Raises it up to 175,000. Pair of deuces hit the table again.
And now Jose has about 20 big blinds, so I think if I were Jose, I would shove deuces now. And he is going to move his entire stack in. And I think this is a little bit different of a situation than earlier. I think when Ari raises from the small blind and Jose moves all in, I feel like Ari might have to call with ace-7. Another player, another flip for their tournament life.
Well, the huge action continues between these two fine players. Let's see what the flop brings. Flop comes 7, 10, 3. 7 for Ari. Hits it on the flop. Pair of 7s against the 2s of Jose.
Jose is going to need a 2 on the turn or the river.
And about 10 Hail Marys. King on the turn, no help.
20 Hail Marys now.
And 1 on my father.
Just 1 card to come. Otherwise, Jose is going to be eliminated in 3rd place. And the ace on the river gives Ari aces and 7s. And now we are going to be down to heads up. But great job by Jose. What a good comeback he mounted to finish in 3rd place for 57,000 and change.
Kudos to Jose. It was a pleasure watching him play.
Another knockout at our HPT final table here in St. Louis, Missouri at the River City Casino. It's time to take a quick commercial break, but when we come back, more exciting final table action. You're watching the HPT.
Welcome back. We're down to the final 2 poker warriors at the HPT final table. Now, from my experience watching fights in the octagon, I can tell you one thing, that the fighters are fighting the loneliest job in the world. Right now, these 2 poker players, they also have the loneliest job in the world. Nobody to support them except themselves. Let's see what happens as we get back to this action.
Starting heads up play between Ari Engel and Paul Feelig. Ari has 9.2 million to Paul's 3.3 million. That is a substantial chip lead that Ari has.
Ari with a huge increase of 3.8 million chips plus. Paul increasing up over 2 million chips. Heads up time. This is where we separate the men from the boys.
Or the women from the girls.
This is true.
But I know in this situation in particular, yes. And in heads up play, the small blind is also the button. So Paul decides from the button to limp in with 5 deuce offsuit.
Ari checks with his jack-9 suited. Flop comes 6, ace 4, rainbow flop, no help to anybody. Ari still strong with the jack-9 suited.
Paul has a gut shot straight draw, and the 7 of diamonds comes off on the turn.
Which gives Ari a flush draw. Ari calls the bet with 105,000 chips.
River card, please.
River card, 10 of clubs, no help to anybody.
And Paul knows that if he doesn't bet, he can't win here, so he's got to try to go for it. 135,000.
Again, I would have bet a little more myself. I don't see how he can call, but he's endangering a call not even knowing what cards in his hands are.
Yeah, definitely. I think with that bet size, if Ari had better than Jack High, if he had King High, for example, he's getting called. So blinds going up to 50,000 and 100,000 with a 10,000 ante.
Paul peels back, ace 8 off.
Paul's got roughly 20 big blinds now, so this is definitely a hand that I think he's going to raise go with.
Ari with his lucky 7s. Let's see if he goes over the top.
3,500,000.
3,000,000.
And I say he jumped over about 6 cars with that bet.
Yeah, he's effectively putting Paul all in for his tournament life, and Paul's going to quickly call. It wouldn't be poker if it didn't come down to a flip on what could be the final hand of this tournament.
With him having the 7s.
Paul has his 2 overs, which is probably why he's smiling, because there's still breathing room in this hand for him.
Got a little bit of hope, but ooh, 7 on the flop is just going to close the door, slam it right in Paul's face. King and a 5 to go along with it. Rainbow. I mean, you see that Paul's down to 3% here.
Now for the turn card. Comes a 10 of diamonds. We have a new champion.
Paul is drawing dead officially now. He's going to be our second place finisher, taking home 87,000 and change. And Ari is going to be our newest HPT champion. He played a great game.
Paul should be very proud of himself. His play was awesome, as all the players at this final table. Very impressed with Ari's play. Very impressed.
Now joined with our new HPT champion. Give it up for Ari Engel, everybody. I'm also joined by the casino manager here at River City, the one, the only Anthony Russo. And before we go any further, how do you feel right now? You've got the cash, you've got the title. What's going through your mind?
I feel great. This is why we play tournaments. Every now and again, you can get a win, put in enough repetitions, and this time it worked out for me.
Is your new pocket pair, I have to ask, is it pocket 7s now?
I don't think I'll ever fold them again.
All right, well, I want to bring Anthony Russo in. You ran a great tournament, Tony, 420 players, and I think we've got a pretty good representative of our champion.
Yes, thank you very much, Ari. You're the record-setting $604,000 prize pool, biggest one we had, 4th HPT. Thank you very much, and congratulations.
Give him a round of applause. He is our new HPT champion here from the River City Casino in St. Louis, Missouri. His name is Ari. We'll send it back to Maria.
Do you think you have what it takes to sit under these bright lights at the HPT final table? Then log on to hptpoker.com and find an event near you. For Bruce Buffer, James Larson, and Fred Bevel, I'm Maria Ho, and I'll see you next time right here on the HPT.
I'll be the last man standing with the money in my hand. Last man standing with the money in my hand. I'll be the last man standing with the money in my hand.